Well, welcome again to another Preaching in the Real, and we're at Fairview Cemetery. Now, I had a parishioner ask, Ernie, when are you going to do our cemetery? And they were referring to Fairview here. And it's kind of funny how we associate our families with different cemeteries, isn't it? We were at North Logan Cemetery, and I kind of associate that with my family. And a lot of people in Listowel associate with this cemetery. And I had one funeral I did, it must be about a year and a half ago. About a year ago, it was just at the start of the pandemic. And the family were from quite a distance away, and this was where the grandparents had been buried, and so this is where the mother wanted to be buried. And so her daughter, who was the last in that family, which is kind of sad, she was kind of by herself. She had no kids or family. And anyways, we had a funeral here for her. And she was really, really heartbroken. And I hope she doesn't mind me sharing the story, but, she was telling me before the funeral, I don't know how I'm going to be able to stand the graveside and not break down. And, she was very, very concerned about it. And so I suggested to her that she just, when she's at the graveside and the casket's there, just to stop and extend her senses out and listen for what might be around you. And I said, listen for the leaves rustling, and then listen maybe for a bird. And so anyways, it's one of these memories that I have, and it's a godly moment. I don't know how else to describe it. And so we have this woman burying her mother, broken in grief, tears streaming down her face, and you could see her focus on the casket, and then all of a sudden there was a bird started chirping, and with that she looked up at me with a big smile on her face and said, "It's okay. I hear the birds chirping," and somehow or other, and I don't know, you can use your own judgment, but it was a godly moment. I think God was, her mother was reaching out from heaven saying, "It's okay, it's okay." That was one nice memory. I have another memory I want to share with you. And again, I don't know if you can see way over there towards the road, I had another burial, and again this woman had lived a great length of time, and it did everything in life and lived life to its fullest, and this wonderful family, bunch of grandkids, and they all gathered around the casket as we were lowering it. And one of the extended family was quite a renowned singer, actually. And she says to the grandkids that were gathered there that, we can sing a song. And so they stopped. Well, I was going to say stop, but they all, grandkids, gathered together and they started singing. And, talk about beautiful. You could hear the trees rustling, the leaves rustling. You could feel the warm sun on us. It was a beautiful day. There's no snow on the ground. And anyways, beautiful day. Another good memory from this cemetery. I wonder if this person was a hunter. Looks like there was some antlers there, a Volmer. Oh. Yeah, he was quite young. So anyways, here we have the Columbarium. I just love that name. But anyways, we can see a few people on here, and I'm sure this is where the one at North or Alma Center is going to be like eventually. And we see a few names: Lyle Pettipiece, Tony Loss, a few names that I recognize there. Oh, Darlene Gauze is not that much older than younger than I am. We must have been at school together. I don't remember her. Remember her sister. So anyways, I did a little bit of reading on this cemetery, and I don't know if you noticed, but they were starting a new cemetery out at the just out past the new school, the Westfield School. And as I was doing some reading, they were noting that they think this cemetery has about 30 years of life left in it. And the reason they were able to get more extended life out of it is that there are a lot more cremations being performed now than there had been in the past, which I found quite interesting. You know, the whole nature of funerals it is changing, and you know, long gone are the days of just a casket only. A lot of people are getting cremated. That was my parents' choice. And I remember my father, when he was in the hospital, had a roommate beside him. Very, very nice man. And those two, he was a retired farmer as well, same as my dad, and those two had great chats. And anyways, the one time I went in there, and my dad said to me, "You got to talk to him." Kind of abrupt. And I said, okay. So I went over. Well, anyways, I guess they were having a chat about cremation. And he wanted to know if it was proper, what was God's view on cremation. And because, you know, there's that kind of a concept that, bodily resurrection. And so anyways, we had quite a chat about that. And, I'm not professing I know all the answers, but I firmly believe that if we truly believe in a gracious God and a God who is all-powerful, that, he can put us back together and raise us from the dead. But I also firmly believe it's our spirit that goes up to heaven and not our physical body. But it was a nice little chat. But I want to make a point about this particular person. When he was in the hospital, the reason for these questions about cremation and so on was that he was diagnosed with cancer and only had they figured a couple months to live at the most, maybe not even that. And so he was getting his affairs in order, making his funeral plans and all that stuff. And of course, I lost track of him, but I knew his daughter. And about a year later, I ran into his daughter and asked, I hadn't heard anything about your dad. What's going on? And she said to me, it's a miracle. The doctor gave him a clean bill of health. There's not any cancer in his body at this point in time. And here we go. For me talking to a man on his bed, his deathbed as far as he was concerned. And I don't know. It's just one of those things that you kind of stop and wonder what went on there. Why him when we pray for other people to have a miracle and it doesn't happen? I guess in my mind, I kind of view it that there must be something in his life that he needs to complete yet. God has a purpose. I don't know. Many questions we have in life, isn't there? Well, I want to talk about, first a couple things. One thing that really surprised me about this cemetery is we have these huge decorating services all around. And like Alma Center, they could have 500, 600 people there. North Logan, 100, 200 people, maybe more. But I did services here a few times. And it's really odd. This huge cemetery, and they're lucky to get 30 people out. And they'll have the Salvation Army band. And they'll have music. And they'll have great preaching. And it just kind of defies logic. And, the ministers that I've helped with, they really don't understand it either. Anyways, just saying. Anyways, that's just one observation. And I was looking online, I also noted that there is 8 war veterans buried in here. That was on the website, for the town website. Look at all those names we recognize. Probably original settlers, 1899. Davidson. I want to talk today. We talked about anticipatory grief. There's also something else I want to talk to you about. It's kind of an extension of that. It's not the same, but it's different. Is compassion fatigue. In this time of pandemic, we have a lot of frontline workers that are overextending themselves. They're caring and caring and caring, and it's really affecting their health. And it's called compassion fatigue. It's very different than anticipatory grief, but it in particular affects people who care. And you know, it's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of some sin you've committed, or however you want to look at it. It's definitely not a weakness. But it's something that does happen. And I've had people say to me, you know, or I've been talking to them, and for something triggers, and they'll start, you know, tearing up, and then they'll apologize. I don't know why I'm doing that. I'm very happy today, and I have no idea why I'm tearing up. Well, that's one of the signs of compassion fatigue. There's actually a bunch of them, and of course everybody's different. And so, you know, not all of these will fit you in particular, but if you're caring for someone and giving your all to that person, you're absorbing some of the emotions from that person, and it's affecting you within. And so some of the symptoms might be forgetfulness. You have trouble sleeping. Maybe you got some unexplained medical conditions. You know, why is your heart pounding, or why is you feel so stressful, or you know, just things that you really can't explain. Maybe it's anger. And you'll notice that some of these do kind of cross over with that anticipatory grief I was telling you about. Another one is you try to avoid social settings. You know, those parties you used to love to go to, you try to avoid them. You just want to sit home. Physical exhaustion. That's a big one. You get home from work and you just collapse. Can't carry on. Huh. That's a huge flower urn there. So we must be getting into the older part of the cemetery here. I was trying to find some information on this cemetery, but I didn't have much luck. I guess I wasn't in the right spot. So myself, I'll have to admit, I'm pretty sure I've had compassion fatigue. But for me, I just get tired. You know, get home at night and flop in front of the TV and you just don't want to move. But the other thing that I've noticed myself is that I tend to forget things. And so, you know, kind of the self-evaluation, you know, it's time to slow down or take a bit of a break. And so this is a lot about being self-aware of yourself. You know, you have a need to hit the reset button in your life. And so, of course, the question is, well, what do you do? Well, taking time for yourself is the big one. I was reading one compassion fatigue expert suggested that, it's Livingston. I wonder if this is... Well, isn't that interesting? This huge stone, there's no names or anything on it. Anyways, one of the compassion fatigue experts was suggesting that you carry a water bottle around and you just regularly drink from it all day. And I guess what she was getting at is you set kind of a routine or a rhythm for yourself. Just this routine, this doing the same thing every day is kind of helpful. You get up in the morning, you roll out of bed and get your cup of coffee, maybe flip through the news or listen to the radio or some music. Just get into that routine before you get your day going. It's quite windy here, isn't it? Actually, this spot right in here, this is where they have the, I think it's right in here. Or am I mistaken? I think this is where they have little church services right down here. I think there's some plaques here, if I remember right. What does that say? This site was purchased from the town of Wallace. Independent order of the lodge. Donated to Fairview. I can't quite read it all. Looks like it's a lodge marker. You can see other footprints here where people have been wandering through. So, we can learn from Scripture something about compassion fatigue. Actually, this is the one stone I was looking for over here. So Jesus, how did he cope with caring for everybody all the time? Well, I would suggest that when you look at his life, he did quite a bit, actually. Actually, I want to back up before we get to Jesus. There are some coping mechanisms that are not healthy as well. Maybe you get home, pour yourself a glass of wine. One glass is fine. When you get up to 3, 4, 5 glasses because it makes you feel good, that's not a healthy coping mechanism. And again, just something to be aware of. Oh yeah, that's hard to read. So this is the young woman that was murdered. And I don't know if you remember, there was an author who had a book reading at the Listowel Library. What's her name? Jessie Keith, I think. I hope that's the right name. Oh, that's really hard to read. So anyways, this guy wrote a history of her murder and followed it. And it was quite an engaging book. And anyways, he had a book reading or book signing. He was trying to sell books at the library. And the library had set up, I don't know, maybe 20 seats there. They were prepared. Well, my wife and I went. Well, anyways, it turned out they had standing room only. Like, there had to have been over 100 people there. And a lot of people showing quite a bit of interest in her story and to remember her. And part of this author's goal, and of course the pandemic has slowed it down, is he really feels bad about this statue. It's being weathered and it really needs to be inside or covered or something. Because, keep looking at that, like her hands are pretty much gone. Not another 50 years, there's not going to be anything left. Anyways, that was one goal he had in life. And anyways, just a nice reminder of some tragedy that happened in the past. So, one thing about Jesus that you will notice is that he did keep a routine. Maybe you remember in the Bible it says that Jesus woke and went to pray as was his normal custom. That was in Scripture. He had a routine, and quite often he'd be out preaching and then he'd tell the disciples, well, we gotta get away to ourselves. And so they would, sometimes jump in the boat, go across the lake, try to get away from people. Jesus did spend a lot of time in the wilderness, on mountaintops, just places to get away. enjoy God's creation, but it was routine. And, he surrounded himself with friends. Jesus actually liked a good party. There's the story of the wedding at Cana. His mother wanted him to turn the water into wine, and he didn't want to. But we can learn a few things about life from Jesus and how he interacted in life. As I would argue, he was probably the best example of the caring person, the human side of Jesus. And the powerfulness of that is the divine side of Jesus. Jesus, God himself, he understands our human condition. He understands when we're tired. Another thing that this specialist in the passion fatigue was suggesting is you just talk to yourself. Talk it out. Walter. I have some Walters in my lineage. I'm not sure how it fits in, but I do have some Walters in my family. Well, I'm pretty sure I have some family members in here. Got one kind of cute story I got to share with you. So anyways, over the far corner here is where they store the caskets for spring interment. And my grandfather passed away, and it was winter time. And of course, they take the casket down there. And so we're in the funeral procession. My cousin, I was one of the pallbearers. There was 6 of us. I think it was all cousins, grandkids of grandfather. And I still remember my one cousin in the back seat in the funeral car trying to put a seatbelt on. Well, I guess, seatbelts aren't really used that often in funeral cars in the back seat. And he couldn't get it out, and he was getting rather upset. And then finally his brother said to him, I don't think the police are going to pull over our funeral procession and give you a ticket for not having your seatbelt on. I don't know, just one of those funny things I remember. Well, I think we're nearing the end here, and got a few notes scribbled down here. Just want to make sure I got a few things. Oh, one thing I did want to point out is the what we're talking about here is mental health in a lot of ways. And the Listowel Egg Society has a mental health workshop coming up, and it's $100 for this, and that is a deal. That is half price. And if issues in mental health, how you interact with others, is of interest to you, I would highly recommend that you sign up for that course. And it is very, very good. It's called a mental health first aid, if I understand that's what they're doing. And it's normally over $200. And so anyways, I'd highly recommend that. Put a little plug in there for the Listowel Egg Society. Well, beautiful day. A little chilly out here yet. The days are getting longer. We've got hopeful that spring will be here soon. And I think with that, I'm going to sign off and let you take a look at this beautiful, beautiful cemetery. We have a most blessed day.